They're our planet's first builders, nature's architects and engineers, crafting homes of spectacular design in every corner of the globe. Some are elegantly simple, others surprisingly complex. So it looks like a teenager's bedroom from the outside, but if you were to cut this right down the middle and look inside, whether they were made by beaks or paws, these homes have a universal purpose: to keep their owners safe from a dangerous world as they give birth and raise a family.
But it makes it a perfect bear home. It's secure, it's dry.
And it turns out that the quest for real estate in the wild is all about the same three things we value most: location, location, location. A strategic location in space, at a precise location in time. These are the essential must-haves of just the right home. It looks like an ideal place to live, doesn't it? The valley of the Snake River, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It features beautiful Rocky Mountain views, plenty of running water, and a good mix of trees and shrubbery. It's the perfect spot to build your dream house and to commune with nature. The surprising thing is, much of what you see here isn't exactly natural. It was shaped and crafted by a rodent, the beaver. This is where a family of beavers is making its home. The dad has been homesteading here for nearly a decade, and he and his mate have a couple of kits. Their ancestors have been working this area for thousands of years. For this family, like all homeowners, location is crucial. But once they chose this spot, they set about giving it a complete makeover to meet their exacting specifications. I'm Chris Morgan. I'm an ecologist, and I'm fascinated by how animals construct their homes and why they decide to live where they do.
There he is. There's our inhabitant.
Beavers are very choosy about where they build. There's one thing no beaver can do without. It's top of the list in their real estate requirements. And that's a stream. When beavers hear the sound of running water, they feel compelled to build. But before they start work on their house, they first build a dam. And check out this dam. It's amazing, it's huge. Beavers are the only mammals besides humans that construct dams to block water. And they build big ones. A beaver dam can be hundreds of feet long, and it's strong enough to support me. It is such an impressive construction. I mean, look at this. It's packed with big logs down to these tiny twigs, and every single one of them, look, has been chewed off by a beaver. These are all different building materials, and one of the most impressive to me is the fact that these beavers will swim with and push and hoist these giant rocks. Look at the size of that, right onto the top of the dam. And they use these big rocks as anchors along with the giant logs, and then they intersperse it with mud and grass and other debris. Look at that, it's perfect. And create this watertight system with one idea in mind, and that is to bring the water level up behind this dam. And the difference between this water level and that water level is approaching, I'd guess, 3 feet. It's quite something. These beavers are not only designers and architects, but stonemasons, woodworkers, builders. They do it all. The dam converts a stream into a pond. Wow. That's just the place to live if you're a water-loving, web-footed beaver who's much better at swimming than walking. Now that the pond's nice and deep, the beaver family instinctively shifts gears to start working on their house, the lodge. With all this construction work, they need a lot of wood. Fortunately, their ancestors evolved into lumberjacks, and they work the night shift. Since the tender inner bark of trees is a beaver's favorite food, they can harvest a crop while they gather lumber. Watch out! But there is a limit to how much they can drag, so our clever beavers let the water do the work. When you think about it, it's really not a stretch to call these guys hydro engineers. So they'll excavate these channels. Look at this. They've actually dug the mud out of this with their front paws. They'll float these big logs out back to where the dam is and where the lodge is, and it allows them as an aquatic mammal to swim up these channels and access the new trees. What an awesome system. By damming the stream so it floods its banks, and then digging a network of canals, the beavers have devised a way to swim right into the forest to reach more trees.
It's a watery world.
And through their efforts, they've also reshaped the entire neighborhood, transforming a woodland into a wetland. Of course, beavers don't work from a blueprint, but they certainly seem to have one in mind. And since this pair has built dams and lodges before, their instincts are bolstered by experience. This is the heart of it all, the heart of the beaver neighborhood. Look at the size of this. This is the lodge. My goodness, it looks like a total jumbled mess of logs. Kind of like a volcano of logs. They've stripped off the bark and eaten the inner bark. Look at those teeth marks. And then they use their food, the food waste, as building material. So it looks like a teenager's bedroom from the outside, but if you were to cut this right down the middle and look inside, you'd see just how complex it is. This lodge is built up against the pond's shore, but the entrances are underwater for security. Above is a suite of rooms. Amazingly, the beavers actually carve them from the inside, chewing and clawing their way through that solid mound of wood and earth. There's a kind of a mud room where they can dry off, and a family room where they eat and sleep. They left the domed roof a little loose to vent out CO2 and to let in fresh air. And as a finishing touch, they'll excavate the mud on the shore side to create a moat, so their home will be completely surrounded by water. Beaver lodges are all built along the same general lines, but each one is unique. A designer home that's perfectly matched to its surroundings. The goal is to have a house that's cozy and warm, safe and secure, where they can raise their young ones. In fact, the same things that motivate every house-building animal. But finding just the right location to build in, that's the challenge. Most animals can't do what beavers do. They can't alter their neighborhood to meet their needs. So they have to make the best use of their habitat, taking advantage of whatever nature offers. This red-faced warbler has found a convenient spot to raise her family. Right on the ground, tucked away under a fallen branch. The warbler's neighbor, a brown creeper, takes an entirely different approach. It climbs straight up a tree trunk to hide its nest inside the bark. And these house finches make their home among the spines of a cholla cactus. That's like putting up a barbed wire fence to keep out trespassers. Of course, the conditions where you live help determine where you put your home. A great desert skink escapes the searing heat of the Australian outback by digging a network of underground tunnels. Down here, it can be nearly 40 degrees cooler than up on the surface. A gopher tortoise makes its home underground too, because the pine forest it lives in is prone to fire. No matter where you make your home, your surroundings are bound to present both challenges and opportunities. A good homemaker knows how to deal with both. The salt marsh sparrow makes its nest, not surprisingly, in coastal salt marshes from Maine to Virginia. A house near the shore offers a lot of attractions, but it also harbors risks. This is a place where ocean and land collide, a place of constant change and powerful forces. As a home site, it has its drawbacks. You see, the female sparrow builds her nest on the ground, and the marsh floods with the tide. Twice each day, the pull of the moon draws the sea into the marsh. And twice each month, when the moon is full, and again when it's new, the tides are especially high. Nesting here is certainly risky, but on the other hand, there's less competition for space and food, so this is where the sparrow has carved out a niche. She's in a race against time and the rising tide. The sparrow weaves her nest under the top layer of grass, so it's hidden from predators, but high enough so it should stay above water. It takes 24 to 26 days from the time she begins laying her eggs until her last chicks fledge. Almost the exact length of the lunar cycle. There's no margin for error. For most of the sparrow nests, flooding is inevitable. It can be a disaster, A female sparrow has no way to get her eggs back into the nest if they float away. That's why the nest is constructed with an overhanging dome, to make sure the eggs stay put. As long as they remain within the confines of the nest, they can bob around for an hour or two until the tide recedes. When Mum returns, she'll warm them up, and they'll continue to incubate. After the eggs hatch, the chicks have no protective shell to float around in, so they're more vulnerable than ever. Young chicks can't swim. They're defenseless against the rising water. But once they're about 5 days old, they're strong enough to climb up above a flooded nest and wait out the tide. This chick has made it through the night. She was just big enough to reach safety. Her siblings weren't so lucky. A few inches can make all the difference between a successful nest and a catastrophic failure. But enough sparrows survive to keep the little birds coming back to these marshes year after year. One creature that lives on the water but avoids the problems of a flooded nest is the hooded merganser. Mergansers are striking little ducks, especially the males with their black and white crests. In the spring, they puff them up to attract a mate. Once courtship is over, house hunting and child rearing are left up to the female. Most waterfowl build their nests on the ground or on floating mats of vegetation. But hooded mergansers are rare ducks. They seek out the shelter of a hollow tree. Out of the thousands of trees in this forest, this one is perfect. Struck by lightning years ago, it still stands tall with a convenient entrance, 50 feet up. A woodpecker probably drilled out that hole while it foraged for insects. Over time, the hole's been widened and rubbed smooth, perhaps by squirrels or raccoons, and by generations of hooded merganser mums. At the bottom of the cavity, she lines her nest with soft down feathers, plucked from her own breast. And here she lays a clutch of eggs, up to a dozen or so. Mergansers can afford to lay so many eggs because they nest in a location that's safe from the elements and from predators. After 4 or 5 weeks, the eggs begin to open. Once hatching is underway, the nest is a busy place and noisy. All that vocalizing promotes a family bond as the ducklings get used to the sound of their mother's voice. She won't stay in the nest for long, though. Within hours of the last egg hatching, the ducklings are home alone. Their mother's not far away, and her calls are the only thing that could entice them to abandon their cozy nest. Barely a day old, they can't fly up to the entrance, so instead, they climb. They're equipped with strong claws just for this purpose. When they reach the opening, their first view of the outside world must come as quite a shock. It's a 5-story drop. But somewhere down below, their mom is urging them to leave the only home they know, so they can live the life they were born for. And that persuades them to do something that seems a little crazy. Some ducklings aren't as bold as others. And he who hesitates gets a push. Finally, driven by instinct and joined to one another by an inseparable bond, they all take the plunge. Once they've assembled on the ground, still following their mother's voice, they will make their way together through the woods to their new home on the water. As for the tree, it won't stand empty for long. Some other creature will take over the lease soon. Perhaps a squirrel or a wild turkey. And our hooded merganser will be back in residence next year to bring another family into the world. Few animal homes could be simpler than the hooded mergansers. But here in this oak forest in the Ozark Hills of southern Illinois, you'll find homes that are almost absurdly complicated. The builder uses whatever is at hand, and his tower of sticks and leaves is a reflection of the place where he lives. The architect behind this house is a little rodent with a good reason to build big. He's an eastern wood rat. He works nights, gathering building materials and fitting them into his grand edifice. It's a work in progress. As time goes on, it'll just keep getting bigger and bigger. Over the course of a lifetime, this wood rat's den will grow to an enormous size, with multiple chambers and plenty of storage space. So why does he need such a big house? Because the wood rat is an avid collector, which is why he's also known as a pack rat. He collects food, for instance, seeds and nuts, fruit and leaves. What he doesn't eat, he stores for the winter inside the den. But wood rats are looking for more than just food. They have a natural inclination, bordering on obsession, to scavenge their tiny territory for anything they find interesting and cart it all home. They seem especially attracted to the things we throw away. Toys, used shotgun shells, and anything shiny. They just love metal. But here's the mystery. We have no idea why they're drawn to all this stuff. Most of it is of no practical use to them. It's not warm. They can't eat it. No matter. They're inveterate hoarders. It all gets incorporated into the walls of the house, or socked away in a storage chamber. All this is a far cry from the compact and purely functional homes of most animals. But then most animals lack the wood rat's predilection for junk. Sometimes living in the right location is really all about having the right kind of neighbors. Here in the Chiricahua Mountains of southeastern Arizona, there lives a little hummingbird that's taken that lesson to heart. I've come to learn more about it from biologist Harold Greene.
God, this is just beautiful. Wow.
He's a hummingbird expert, and he knows how to find them, by sight or by sound.
One strategy is to just walk fairly directly from one spot to another and then just stop and listen.
Harold has probably found more hummingbird nests than anyone on the planet.
I think she kept on going.
He has a special interest in the hummingbird that lives around here. It's called the black-chin.
She's coming in. She's gonna go. Now she's off to the right. Here she goes. And she just sat on the nest.
Lost her. Is she on the nest?
Yep, she just went to the nest.
Oh, no way. You spotted it?
Yeah. Oh, there she just came off the nest again. You know, you don't even think the nest could fit there, but then it's got that nice shade.
Wow, it's wrapped right around the branch.
Yeah.
You would walk right past that. It's no bigger than a golf ball, really.
Yeah.
A bird so small, making such a tiny, fragile home. It's easy to see how vulnerable it can be. And in fact, the black-chin falls victim to an array of predators. Squirrels, snakes, and especially other birds. One of the worst offenders is the Mexican jay, which makes its own nest in these woods. Harold's good at spotting them, too.
Do you see the nest right there in the fork of that oak?
Oh, yes.
She's on the nest right now. Yeah, very nice.
I'm distracted because there's one there and there's one there, and they're both looking right down us. They know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, we're kind of close to their nest here, and, you know, they're coming to check us out, make sure we're not posing a threat. They're just like any other bird when you get down to it.
Right, but they are the enemy of the hummingbird.
They are, in this case, the enemy of the hummingbird.
And it's not hard to understand why. The jays have their own young to feed. And a hummingbird nest is so convenient. Harold himself shot this rare view of a jay feasting on a black-chin's eggs. But some hummingbird nests are safer than others, and Harold has discovered why.
Not too far away here is the hawk nest.
It turns out the hummingbird doesn't build her nest just anywhere.
Way easier to spot this one, probably, hey?
Yes, it's slightly larger.
She often chooses a neighborhood where she can get help from her neighbors. Either Cooper's hawks or their close cousins, the goshawks, will serve the purpose.
Oh, I see.
This
Yeah,
one's-
it's difficult to miss that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
You could probably fit 100 hummingbird nests inside there. And it's sort of, you know, at the upper level of this forest, watching over this whole area.
Now, you'd think that a big killer like a hawk would make short work of a hummingbird. In fact, they don't bother with such small prey.
For a bird this size, the morsel's so small, the challenge is so great, you burn more calories chasing a hummingbird than you get from eating it. You know, if you had to run up this hill to eat a Tic Tac and then go down and come back up to get a second
I'd
one.
probably only do it 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
Jays, on the other hand, are perfect meal-sized prey for hawks, who attack them from above. The jays have only one defense: being annoying. When a jay finds a hawk, it sounds the alarm. That alerts the other jays, and they all gather round to give the hawk what for, trying to drive it away. And sometimes it works. Because the hawks are such a big threat to jays, they've become the hummingbird's protector. As the old saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Should we go up the hill and get a closer look?
Oh, yeah, look at this.
Oh,
Spectacular.
beautiful. Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Great vantage point.
And that's the vantage point that instills fear in the jays. So they normally forage at all levels in the forest, on the ground, up into the canopy. But when they know that hawk's there, they don't want to be underneath her, because the way she hunts is to swoop down upon them.
So from the hawk's position on high, you can imagine a kind of cone stretching down, taking in everything in the hawk's target area. For the jays, it's a no-fly zone. But for the hummingbirds, it's a safe haven. And their nests tend to be clustered inside that zone. The question is, do the hummingbirds really understand what's going on here? Do they seek out hawks when they look for a place to nest? Well, probably not.
We know that the hummingbirds are very faithful to successful nest sites. So they build a nest, and if they are successful in fledging a brood, they'll come back and reuse that same site.
They may have no idea that they're under the watchful eye of the hawks.
That's actually my guess, yeah.
For a black-chinned hummingbird, the trick is finding just the right place to live and the right neighbors to live near. But there's more to location than being in the right place. You also have to be there at the right time. Winter seems like the worst possible season for a bird to build a nest. But the cold doesn't stop these little songbirds. Grey jays maintain their territories all year round in the northernmost forests of North America. And they breed in the dead of winter. Here in Canada's Algonquin Provincial Park, a pair of jays is working together on their nest. They've picked a spot that's exposed on the south side to catch as much of the weak winter sunlight as possible. And it's nestled under a branch to offer at least some protection against snowstorms. It's the female's job to incubate the eggs. She sits in the nest without a break for nearly 3 frigid weeks, doing her best to keep warm in sub-zero temperatures. It's up to her mate to keep her well fed. There's precious little to eat in this frozen landscape. unless you plan ahead. During the fall, grey jays harvest the bounty of the forest and store it away in caches, hidden in trees throughout their territory. Bugs and berries and bits of meat are tucked under flakes of bark. And not just any tree will do. Grey jays prefer black spruce for food storage. The bark is especially flaky, and its resin seems to do a better job of preserving perishable food. This pair of jays spent months creating a network of perhaps 10,000 food caches. That meant they had to collect and stash food hundreds of times every day, and create a mental map of their territory to record where they put their groceries. Their memories are phenomenal. They manage to retrieve as much as 80% of the food they hide. The eggs will hatch in a few weeks, before spring has even begun. That will give the chicks a head start on growing up and developing brain power. They'll need it when fall rolls around, so they can find and store food, and remember where they put it all. The Green Mountains of Vermont are home to the grey jay's much larger cousin, the common raven. In late winter, these granite cliffs echo with their rasping calls. Now, while the rest of the forest is still closed for the season, the ravens are starting a family. Ravens are big birds, and they build a big nest, woven from sticks a yard long. Because ravens are so secretive and cautious, their nests need to be hidden out of the way. Like this one, in a crevice on a cliff face, with a rock overhang for protection. It's perfect for this family. In fact, the layout is so perfect, it's been used for thousands of years by countless generations of ravens. Once the chicks hatch, they grow fast. Within a few weeks, they're nearly as big as their parents, and they're ravenous. Both adults work overtime to keep food on the table for 4 hungry nestlings. Like jays, ravens store some food in hidden caches, but mostly they let the winter do their hunting for them. And winter is a cold-blooded killer. A dead deer can feed a lot of ravens. They're sociable birds, happy to share a big meal with other ravens, as well as a few neighbors. Their calls also alert less welcome diners. Eagles are too big and too powerful to disinvite. But ravens are patient. Once the eagle has eaten its fill, there's still plenty left. Some of the meat they'll eat on the spot. But for these working parents, the main priority is to bring food back to the nest. Their chicks are in a hurry to grow up. Before long, it'll be their turn to make their homes in these ancient granite cliffs. Many mammals do what jays and ravens do, start a family during the winter. But to succeed, They need the right home in the right place. I've been studying bears for more than 20 years. My own work is based in the Cascade Mountains of Washington State and up in Alaska. But black bears are making a comeback all over the eastern United States. So I've come to Maryland's Allegheny Mountains to learn more about how these bears make their homes and where. A bear's home is really a seasonal thing, a hideaway where it can hibernate during the long winter months. And for a female, it's much more than that.
Oh, look at that. I love getting into the mind of a bear.
I'm wondering what they're thinking. So imagine a female bear in November. She's looking for a place that she's going to spend the next 6 months. So she's thinking about it needs to be isolated and insulated and safe, and maybe somewhere that's near food and water. In the days just before she goes into a den, she'll be drinking gallons of water just to help her process the fat so that she can survive the winter. So she's got an awful lot on her mind as she's trying to select the best home. But this would be perfect. This den is empty now, but last year, for one bear, it was a very special place.
Perfect.
Completely dry and sheltered in here. This is where it all happens. She comes into this den alone, and she stops eating, she stops drinking. Her heartbeats drop to about 8 per minute, her respiration, breathing down to about 8 per minute, and she's alone. But then something even more surprising happens. In February, she gives birth inside this den, half asleep, to maybe 4 or 3 cubs. And then 2 months later, we follow the light at the end of the tunnel and shadow Mom as she leaves into this big wide world of adventure. What a way to start life. Black bears here in Maryland are reproducing at a rapid rate. In some areas, their population has doubled in the past decade. That means they often make their homes near where people live. So the state has an interest in keeping a close eye on the bears and locating their dens. It's the end of March in these snowy woods. I've met up with Harry Spiker and his team from the Maryland Department of Natural Resources.
There you go.
They're checking on the health and welfare of the local bears. We've got a short walk in.
About a half mile.
We're planning our approach to another den. One where the residents are still at home.
She's right up there, up pretty high on the rocks.
So they're trying to figure out the best route to the cave. And we have to be very quiet because we don't want to disturb this female.
You'll hit the rock wall, skirt around.
You can see why a bear would be drawn to this area. We're surrounded by these giant boulders, and there are these dark holes between them that look perfect for denning. And you can also see Harry's military background coming out. He's going in first, and if he can't dart the bear and she decides to exit, then Georgia here is the backup. She can hopefully dart the bear as it comes through.
With the bear safely tranquilized, I can take a look inside her den.
Oh, it's a very tight space. A perfect home. Nice and secure. Oh, wow. Oh, there's 4 cubs. She has 4.
Look at that. There's 4 of them, 4 cubs in here. And a big female. She looks huge, actually, just squashed in here. A tiny little space, a really narrow little section of the cave, but it makes it a perfect bear home because it's secure, it's dry. She's pulled in all these leaves. Look at all these rhododendron leaves that she snipped from outside and pulled in here to make a bed. A perfect place. So a really healthy female, and with 4 cubs, that's a really good sign. Okay, we're just pulling out the cubs so that we can weigh them and measure them. It's okay, little guy. Okay, I've got 2 here.
Yeah, coming out over my shoulder.
Another one there?
Yep, it's coming.
There you go, little guy.
7 on the dot. 7 pounds.
Outside the den, their mum doesn't look so big. She's only about 100 pounds, but she's a beauty.
She looks in really good shape.
She is in great shape. Her teeth look great.
Quite a young bear.
Yeah,
by the looks
yeah.
of it. Incredible to see this thick mat of wool under there.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what it's all about. She'd be lost without it. You feeling good about her and the cubs and the shelter in it? Yeah.
Very good.
While the team does a full workup on the female,
Look at that.
I get a chance to enjoy a moment I've always dreamed of.
Oh, you guys are perfect, aren't you? Oh, this has got to be one of the most memorable experiences of my life. Just look at those guys. 4 of them. And we've got 2 of these guys here. As soon as you put them in your coat, they just want to feel comfortable and warm. They kind of chill out. And I guess it must feel like they're close to their mum, like they are in that cave. It's the first time these guys have seen daylight. And I'm definitely the first human being that they've seen. That's an incredible thought. It's just the biggest honour, playing surrogate mum for a few minutes. Oh.
They're lucky little bears, with a healthy mum and a comfy den in just the right location. Back on the pond, winter has worked its magic, radically transforming the beaver's world. Their pond is nearly frozen over, and the lodge is camouflaged under a mantle of white. All around, the landscape may be buffeted by 60-mile-an-hour winds and chilled to minus 30 degrees. Many of these animals are grazers, so they're homeless. They have to stay on the move, regardless of the weather, scratching out their survival from beneath the snow. As a result, they're exposed to the worst that winter can dish out. And they depend upon their coats to keep out the cold. The snow can pile up 3 or 4 feet, and everything gets a coating of ice. Everything. For the beavers, life couldn't be more different. With the mud in the lodge walls frozen hard as concrete, their home is impervious to wind and snow. The ice on their pond may be a foot thick, but thanks to the beavers' efforts, the water is deep enough that it won't freeze all the way to the bottom. So there's plenty of room to swim. In the lodge, winter is 5 months of family time. And this family has a full house, with 2 parents, a pair of adolescents born last year, and by late winter, newborn kits. With all that shared body heat, the temperature in here may be 60 degrees warmer than outside. The beaver's larder is near their underwater entrance. Maybe 1,000 pounds of tree limbs and logs. They can just pop out the front door, grab a meal, and swim back in to feed. Here in the darkness, in the safety of their lodge, they spend most of their waking hours reinforcing family bonds by grooming and eating together. For kits, like human kids, mealtime can turn into a game. Much of a winter's day is passed just sleeping. They've earned a rest. After all, they worked hard last summer, engineering a new habitat and winterizing their lodge. Now they get to enjoy all the creature comforts. The beavers have created what every animal looks for in a home.
Oh, wow.
It's a safe haven, a place that's warm and secure, a place where they can give their young ones the very best start in life.
This program is available on DVD. To order, visit shoppbs.org or call 1-800-PLAY-PBS. To learn more about what you've seen on this nature program, visit pbs.org.